in the foreign exchange markets, there was one theme throughout the year, which was investors remained long the US dollar.
6.6% higher year to date.
Exactly. And, that was against many currencies. And, we shouldn't forget that actually some currencies, notably the Brazilian real and more recently the Korean won, have actually been hit very hard indeed with selling pressure. So that's the foreign exchange markets, because obviously you focus...
I'll come back to that, because every time I say something, you want to get involved. When you say something, I want to listen to what you have to say. OK, tell me why the wobbles we've seen on the Korean won, on the Brazilian real, and we could probably add some other EM in there as well. Why those wobbles don't augur something more disturbing, like they did do at various times, notably 97, 98, when you and I would have probably still been pontificating on this?
I think a number of factors. The first factor is that for those two currencies, it is very much specific domestic issues. So in South Korea, we've had political instability. We've had the impeachment of the president. We're now having the impeachment of the sort of temporary president. We've had the selling pressure on the Kospi. So it is very much South Korean specific. In the case of Brazil, investors, frankly, have lost confidence in the management of fiscal policy. You see that in the bond market, with 10-year bond yields rising over 15%. So Brazil now has the highest real yields in the world, and that in turn has had a negative impact on the Bovespa, and that in turn has seen selling pressure on the real. So to answer your question, it is very much domestic issues which have affected those currencies.
And the second point you wanted to make?
Well, I think the second point is that we've seen a significant outperformance of credit markets versus government bond markets. So if you'd...
And it's highly logical.
If you'd invested in high-yield bond markets, the return this year in US dollars has been over 8%. If you'd invested in a broad range, if you just invested in the US Treasury index, your return would have been close to zero.
Well,
so
I've got my gilt position. I looked at my pension. There's some gilt in there as well.
Well, you haven't done well.
No, it's been blooming awful. And I kept getting told, oh, you'll be all right at the short end. You'll be all right at the 5-year. It's been awful.
No, it has not performed well. So I think, we talk about the very strong performance of the US equity market. We've also seen, a number of other equity markets doing pretty well. And let's not forget, even although the Euro Stoxx has lagged, it still had, an 8% return year to date. And as you mentioned, the DAX has outperformed. Other markets in Europe, such as Spain and Italy,